Snow falls under a cold sky. It's a freezing cold, unforgiving night. A voice declares this life is a dead end. The sound of a baby crying breaks through the cold, and they express disbelief, saying no one could have imagined being abandoned at just 5 months old under the freezing sky. The baby continues to cry, and the voice laments that nobody told them about this. Inside, a man accuses Maria, saying the child isn't his and doesn't look anything like him. Maria, frustrated, insists that it is their child and demands that he stop doubting her. The baby, observing the situation, realizes that they have been reincarnated with memories of their past life still intact. They are now living as a baby in this household. The baby understands that about 5 months have passed since they were reincarnated. At first, their vision was blurry, and they didn't understand anything, but now they have begun recognizing people and things. Based on the way people talk and dress, the baby deduces that this world feels completely different. The baby remembers their previous life, explaining that they were an ordinary office worker in Japan with a father, mother, and sister. They recall their death as vague, possibly an accident, and conclude that they didn't have enough good karma. In this life, they don't expect much affection from their new parents. The man shouts again, accusing Maria of trying to pass off another man's child as his. He adds that a baby with no hair is creepy. The baby overhears this and wonders if they are bald, admitting that they don't even know what their head looks like. Maria looks troubled. The baby assumes she is experiencing postpartum depression. Maria, clearly disturbed, declares that the baby is a cursed child. She explains that because of the baby, her husband is accusing her of cheating, and since then, the child has shown no emotion. She orders the maid, Mary, to take care of the baby. The baby reflects on having memories of their past life, but being trapped in a baby's body and possibly being bald. Mary approaches, preparing to clean the baby, saying, "Miss, let's clean your bottom, shall we?" The baby braces for the diaper change. Thinking that it's time, Mary cheerfully finishes, announcing all done. The baby watches as a magical light surrounds them, amazed as the uncomfortable feeling from their bottom disappears. They realize that magic exists in this world after all, although they had been skeptical at first. They wonder what just happened, then cheer. The baby concludes that this means they must be able to use magic too. The baby tries to speak, making small noises like "agoo agoo," but realizes they still can't talk. The maid, holding the baby, asks what's wrong with the princess. The baby wonders about the magic they witnessed and thinks about what kind of magic they will be able to use, noting that this is definitely a different world. Later that night, the baby cries and the maid rushes into the room. The maid notes that it is rare for the baby to cry at night. As she reaches the baby's crib, Maria storms in with a wild expression. The maid calls out an alarm, addressing Maria. Maria, in a crazed state, is chalking the baby, commenting that the baby can cry and sounds like a dying animal. The maid, horrified, shouts for her to stop. The man enters the room, demanding to know what is going on. Maria, with frantic eyes, declares that the child is cursed and has to die. The maid holds the baby protectively, trying to shield her from Maria's erratic behavior. The man grimly looks at the situation and orders Mary to take the baby to the church or something. Mary, cradling the baby, quickly follows his order, murmuring that she is sorry as she rushes out into the cold night. While running, Mary reminds herself that they cannot let the Nazaf Merchant Guild find out and that no one should see them. She realizes that the baby is being abandoned. The baby, observing quietly, understands what is happening. Mary continues apologizing as they reach the church. She places the baby down, repeating her apologies before hurrying away. Snow begins to fall around the baby, who looks up and notes that it is starting to snow and believes they are done for. The baby lies in the snow and notes that about 30 minutes have passed since they were left alone. They realize that no one is passing by. They begin to panic, realizing they are freezing and thinking they are going to die. The baby wonders if they are going to die at 5 months old in a third life. The baby starts crying loudly, calling out to God, saying if God exists, they have a few choice words for him. They also express frustration about not even knowing their name in this life yet, as people have only been calling them that child or this kid. Meanwhile, a couple is walking nearby, and one of them hears the sound of a baby crying. The woman insists she can hear it, but the other person comments that they are in a graveyard, and there can't possibly be a baby out here in the cold. As the baby tries to cry louder, they realize they are at their limit and can't cry anymore. The baby is then surrounded by warmth and wonders if they are in heaven. A woman's voice reassures that the baby is all right, while a man comments that he thought it was over for the baby since she was so limp, but he is glad she woke up. The baby, confused, wonders who these two are. The woman then asks how old the baby is, guessing around 4 or 5 months. She expresses relief that they found the baby while visiting Lisa's grave. The baby listens as the woman tells Joe that she feels like it is fate, as though Lisa has returned to them. The woman then asks Joe if they can take the baby in. Joe agrees with taking the baby in but reminds Marissa that the child isn't Lisa. Marissa acknowledges this but says it feels like God brought the baby to them, and they can't just leave such a cute child out there. While examining the baby, Joe comments on how bald she is, wondering if her hair will grow in. Marissa tells him not to touch the baby's head like that and adds that the baby does have some hair, just soft baby fuzz, though she wonders if it might be blonde. Joe thinks for a moment and then suggests the name Mariana for the baby. Marissa agrees, saying it's a lovely name, and adds that they can call her Millie for short. She then asks if it's okay for them to give her a name since there was no name written on the baby's clothes. The baby is now in Joe and Marissa's care, and they tell her that she has new parents now. They call her Millie Chan and express joy at having her. Millie reflects that it's been 5 months since she reincarnated and that she has been yelled at every day and almost died, but she is grateful that they picked her up. Millie reflects on her new life, explaining that Joe is the son of a commoner who was knighted, and Marissa is the daughter of a wealthy merchant family. Together, they opened an inn and restaurant called the Shady Cat Inn, which they bought using connections and money from their wedding. Millie notes that they seem well off but fit right in with the common folk and hopes that the inn does well. 2 years pass and the family sits together with little seeming to have changed. Millie observes that although 2 years has passed since they opened the inn, it feels as though nothing has improved despite her initial thoughts. She notices problems like the food not being tasty and the rooms being dirty. No customers are coming and the business faces too many issues. Millie reflects on how she has enjoyed her time as a baby, but realizes that things are not going well. She acknowledges that the Spark couple saved her life and are raising her like their own child. Millie worries that if things continue like this, the entire family could end up on the streets. Determined, she vows to pay back the Spark couple for everything they have done for her. She resolves to help the family and begins her new life as Mariana Spark, mentally 30 years old, with the goal of supporting the family that took her in. Millie confidently declares that she will make Nicoti a booming success and is ready to begin Operation Repay the Favor. She enters a dirty room and notes the mold, grime, and stains everywhere, realizing she has to do something about the mess. As she turns, she says she needs to take care of the situation, but is shocked by a huge insect. Suddenly, she is startled and realizes it was just a dream, but quickly acknowledges that this is reality and she needs to do something about it. Determined, Millie eats and thinks about starting the cleanup. She wonders how to deal with the deep-seated stains, admitting that it's rough since she is used to modern Japan's cleanliness standards. She realizes that people in this world don't care much about hygiene, and no one seems to wash their hands. Millie concludes that if they keep the inn clean, it should attract more customers. During breakfast, Marissa mentions that Millie's hair is indeed blonde, a common trait among nobles. Joe adds that Millie should avoid showing herself to the customers too much to avoid attracting unwanted attention. Millie realizes that even hiding her hair with a hat can only do so much and wonders what they should do. While thinking, Millie comes up with a plan. She needs to find a quick and easy way to improve hygiene without showing herself to others or taking too much time. She suddenly remembers magic. She couldn't use it as a baby, but now she wonders if she can use magic to clean things. Excited, Millie attempts to use magic to clean, but nothing happens. She grows frustrated watching Joe and Marissa easily using their magic. While they continue working, Millie worries about getting the place in order before the customers wake up. Millie promises to figure out a way as she prepares to help. Joe and Marissa wish her luck and remind her to behave. After climbing the stairs, Millie decides to explore, hoping to find something useful to help her mission. But she has no leads. She looks around and finds a sturdy-looking box. Opening the box, Millie discovers a necklace, a ring, and a book. She is thrilled to find a book on magic that looks authentic. She reads a spell on how to cast light and wonders why she can read it, questioning if it's an isekai perk. She skims through the book and learns that magic is activated by visualizing desire. Excited by the potential, Millie visualizes her desire. Her thoughts quickly drift to her desire for a dessert from her previous life, revealing her obsession with food even as she tries to focus on magic. The child marvels as her hands glow, realizing it's the activation of her magical power. She thinks she can feel energy in the center of her body as the light fades. Excited, she believes she can actually use magic now. She then shouts, "Light," and successfully casts a glowing sphere of light. It floats in the air and she exclaims that it actually worked. She plays with the light, observing how it moves like a tiny light bulb, and remarks that it's glowing but doesn't feel hot when touched. Feeling like a real magician, she repeats the word light in excitement as she plays with the magic, but then starts to feel strange. Later, she's found by Marissa, who asks why she's sleeping there and accuses her of taking out a book without permission. Millie remarks that 5 tiny light bulbs worth of magic isn't much and worries that she might have run out of magic power. She wonders if she had overused her magic and thinks she might not have enough magic power yet. The next morning, she practices again, summoning 5 lights but feels fine this time. She concludes that practicing magic daily could increase her magic power as she feels it has gotten stronger. A week later, Marissa goes to check on Millie and finds her lying on the floor. Marissa picks her up, worried that Millie is sick, but Millie quickly reassures herself that she's just suffering from magic depletion and needs to be more careful, not to cause concern. She is relieved that her magic power has been growing with practice and is now able to cast 10 lights without feeling ill. Several months later, Millie continues her secret magical training, mastering various spells. She is determined to keep learning and improving. Now Millie has learned to cast all the basic elemental spells: wind, water, fire, and earth. She proudly announces her accomplishment. Millie reflects on what she read in the magic book, learning that most people can only use a limited amount of magic, which is why they don't use magic like clean too often. She decides to keep her progress a secret so people won't think she's strange, hoping that her magical abilities will help repay her new family. Millie prepares 2 dishes, ready to serve the customers. She carefully hands them to Marissa, who serves them to the waiting customers. Millie notices that there aren't many customers today, all gather on the first floor. Sensing her opportunity, she clenches her fist with determination and thinks to herself that meal times are her chance since Joe and Marissa are always busy running around. She begins focusing on her spell, chanting clean quietly, making sure she won't get caught. As she casts the spell, sparkling energy surrounds the room, and the dirt begins to vanish, cleaning the entire area. Millie makes her way through the rooms, cleaning as she goes, continuing to chant clean repeatedly. She works tirelessly, making sure to get every last spot while being cautious to avoid drawing attention to herself. As she finishes the final spot, she breathes a sigh of relief. Marissa enters the room with lunch in hand, mentioning that she has brought food for Millie. Millie quickly hides her sense of accomplishment, but Marissa, looking around, wonders aloud if the room had always been this shiny and clean. Millie grins, satisfied with her hard work but keeping her secret safe. Millie picks up her spoon and says she's about to start eating as she begins her meal. She comments that it's not bad, but eating the same flavor every day is kind of boring. She takes another bite and adds that it's also bland. As she continues to eat, she thinks that she really wants to do something about the food too. Millie, humming happily, looks around and remarks that now that she's cleaned the shop and made it look nice, it feels satisfying. Glancing at her food, she wonders what others would think if she uses her past life's cooking skills. She looks at her stew, thinking that even with magic, she didn't want to trouble them, so she secretly learned how to cook. She considers that maybe she should at least tell them about the cleaning magic. Joe finishes his meal and stands up, smiling as he thanks Millie for the meal. Millie watches him leave, then hears her mother calling her from the doorway, asking her to come to the backyard for a moment. Millie stands up and agrees, heading towards the backyard. In the backyard, Millie observes her mother preparing something by the well. Her mother notices how much longer Millie's hair has grown and remarks that it's definitely that rare blonde color. She then adds that it's about time Millie goes outside and plays more. Millie looks on, confused. Her mother holds a brush and a bucket, smiling cheerfully. She instructs Millie not to move for a while. Millie, uncertain, asks her mother what it is. Her mother reassures her, saying that this should dye her hair, but questions if it's really okay. Millie hesitates, wondering what if her hair turns out super fancy. Feeling the strange sensation of the liquid, Millie nervously comments that the greenish powdery liquid makes her uneasy. Her mother firmly tells her not to worry and just stay still. After some time, her mother steps back and announces that she is done. Millie, now with newly dyed reddish-brown hair, beams with excitement. Her mother admires her work, saying that this should be fine now. She adds that tomorrow they'll start greeting the neighbors. Millie, excited, expresses her thanks while touching her new hair, exclaiming that it's a nice reddish-brown. The next day, Millie meets Mike and Mina. Mike introduces himself as being from the pharmacy next door, and Nina introduces herself as being from the oil shop. Both greet Millie, with Mike enthusiastically saying it's nice to meet her and Nina shyly adding the same. Millie smiles brightly and introduces herself, expressing that she is pleased to meet them. She feels thrilled to meet new friends. Mike eagerly asks Millie if she likes sweets. Millie responds that she does. Mike, now excited, says that since they are friends now, he will take her to a special place. Millie asks curiously about the special place. They arrive at an apple forest filled with trees bearing fruit. Millie gasps at the sight, exclaiming how many apples there are. Mike explains that if someone buys apples in town, they cost 5 small copper coins each, but anyone can pick them from this forest for free. Nina adds that the forest is dangerous, so she only comes with adults. Millie, shocked at the cost, thinks aloud that 500 yen for 1 apple is very expensive. She recalls Joe explaining the currency to her and calculates the value, still surprised at the price. She repeats how expensive it is. Mike suggests they have a contest to see who can pick the most apples. Millie wonders if she can even eat them all if she picks so many. They all start picking apples together, with Mike commenting on how great it is to get free apples. The group excitedly joins in, laughing as they collect as many apples as possible. Later at night, she explains her brilliant idea to her dad. The man looks at the apples, surprised, and asks if they're supposed to bake apples in the oven. Millie, sitting confidently, replies that she calls them apple chips. Marissa seems skeptical, saying if they bake those juicy apples, they'll just turn all soggy. Millie stands firm, explaining the key to cooking is not being afraid to fail, and tells her dad to listen. Millie reflects on her hesitance about sharing things like cooking or knowledge from her past life with her family. She doesn't want them to think she's weird. She continues to recall that since she reincarnated, she hasn't had a snack, and once the idea of apple chips struck her, she couldn't stop herself. Frustrated, she thinks about how every day the same old milk soup and vegetable soup are served. She contemplates not liking to hide things from her parents. Finally, Joe says he'll give it a try. Millie, on the other hand, knows she can't reveal the full extent of her memories or magic powers from her past life, thinking it would be too nonsensical. So when her father reaches for the apples, Millie stops him. The father is astonished as his hands become clean, glowing with magic. He stammers, asking how Millie can use magic. Millie calmly explains she practiced while they were working and learned it. The mother connects the dots and realizes that's why the room was so clean before. She asks if Millie cleaned using magic. Millie confirms but decides not to mention that she cast the spell over a wide area. Her father, still processing the surprise, notes how impressive it is that Millie could do all this without being taught, especially at her age. He and Marissa look at her, both showing pride. The mom recalls seeing Millie reading a magic book and asks if she can also read. Both parents start acting like proud parents, making Millie feel a bit embarrassed. The father cautions Millie not to overuse her magic, reminding her she's only 4 years old and might run out of mana. The mother agrees. Millie, smiling, feels content now that the cleaning is done and resolves to be her true self around them as much as possible. Later, the family begins making the apple chips together. They slice the apples thinly and carefully bake them in the oven, controlling the temperature. The father assures them he won't let the apples burn, and Millie excitedly waits for them to get crispy. When the chips are finally ready, Millie, her father, and her mother take a bite together. They are amazed by how delicious the chips are, with the woman describing them as crispy and addictive. Millie is thrilled, finding them just as she had imagined. She exclaims how sweet they are, her face lighting up with joy, and tells her dad that it's amazing. The young man suggests to Millie that they should try serving the apple chips to the customers. Millie responds enthusiastically, saying it's a good idea and that they should offer them the next day. Later, Millie offers the apple chips to a customer, asking if they would like to try some. The customer curiously asks what it is, and Millie explains that they are apple chips. The customer takes a bite, and the chips make a crunching sound. The boy, tasting the chips, exclaims that they are crispy and delicious. He eagerly asks for another plate. Millie watches, considering how apple chips are just a snack. She reflects on her knowledge from her previous life and decides it might be a good idea to continue making food. Millie thinks about creating a signature dish for Nekoti. The man enters with a smile, announcing that the apple chips are a hit with the customers. He tells her that, as a reward for her success, they will splurge on steak that night. Millie's eyes light up as she reacts with excitement about the steak. Millie takes a bite of the steak and savors it, remarking that it tastes so good. The man comments that orc meat is delicious, and Millie is surprised, realizing that they have pork in this world as well. She marvels at the juicy flavor before pausing, her expression changing as she drops her fork in shock. Millie questions the man, confirming whether it's orc meat she's eating. She visualizes an orc from her memories, the kind seen in games, and hesitates, feeling conflicted. She realizes she just ate an orc, a bipedal pig, and begins to cry. The man, noticing her distress, asks why she is crying. Despite her emotions, Millie continues eating, expressing her gratitude to the orc while admitting the meat is delicious. She finds herself struggling with her feelings, acknowledging that it's complicated because of how tasty it is. Millie then has a realization, thinking that if there is pork or orc meat available, she can use it to make a specific dish. Her face brightens as she becomes excited about the idea. In the kitchen, the cooking process for creating the perfect orc cutlet begins. Millie narrates how the tonkatsu is crispy on the outside and juicy on the inside. She explains that when someone takes a bite, the flavor of the meat spreads in their mouth, describing it as devilishly delicious gourmet food. Millie excitedly suggests that cooking the meat in hot oil could create something delicious. She proposes making it a new menu item. Her father beside her hesitates, expressing concern about wasting precious ingredients. Millie insists that courage in cooking is about not fearing failure, reminding him that the apple chips turned out delicious, so they should give this idea a try. Millie gathers various ingredients, including flour, eggs, bread, orc meat, and spices. She expresses relief, noting that this world has the necessary flour and seasonings. The man, looking concerned, asks how she plans to cook all of it. Millie smiles confidently, assuring him not to worry about it. Millie begins preparing the orc meat by making shallow cuts into the slices. She coats the meat with flour and lightly seasons it with salt and spices. Then she dips the meat into beaten eggs. The man watches her and, surprised by her actions, asks why she is dipping it in raw egg and comments that it's getting messy. Millie confidently tells him to just watch. Millie grates bread to make breadcrumbs and thoroughly coats the meat with them. She asks the man to take care of the heat, and he agrees. As the oil sizzles, he asks if they are baking it. Millie, with a determined expression, assures him as she prepares to fry the meat. She instructs him to flip the meat over once it turns golden brown and to ensure it cooks all the way through. The orc katsu is finally done, and Millie excitedly tells the man to taste it while it's still hot. He takes a bite, acknowledging that the dish is pretty good, but expresses surprise since he wasn't sure what would happen when the meat was dipped in raw egg. He finally declares it's delicious. Millie feels overwhelmed with happiness, saying it's her first tonkatsu since her previous life. However, as they continue tasting, Millie remarks that something is missing. She explains that it's not what tonkatsu should be, noting it's not juicy enough and the texture still feels weak. She suggests that maybe frying it twice would make it crispier. With determination, she asks her father to let her try again the next day. The man, chewing thoughtfully, agrees that they could serve this as a new menu item right away, but Millie's focused expression makes him realize she's not satisfied yet. He smiles and assures her he'll stick with her until she's happy with the result. The cooking training continues, with several prototypes being made each day. Prototype no. 2 had the meat cut too thick. Prototype no. 3 was burnt due to incorrect oil temperature, and prototype no. 4 ended up with a rock-hard coating as it fell off during cooking. Millie gets increasingly frustrated, questioning why their attempts are getting worse each time and lamenting that the first one was the best. Millie and her father continue refining the recipe, adjusting the thickness and temperature, aiming for the ideal bite texture. They discuss ideal oil temperature, testing it repeatedly. Millie involves her mother Marissa to assist in drying breadcrumbs perfectly. Together, they create the right breadcrumbs, choosing the best oil for frying. Joe, Millie's father, even crafts a new utensil based on Millie's ideas despite struggling to use it properly. After multiple trials, they finally achieve the perfect orc katsu, declaring it ready for the big reveal day. On the reveal day, as customers arrive, they notice the delicious aroma fill in the air. Millie proudly presents their new menu item, Nakobiti's special orc katsu. The customers, intrigued but hesitant, decide to try it, initially unsure if they take a bite. Millie watches anxiously, confident in the flavor but eager to see their reactions. The orc katsu dish is finally served, and its crispy golden exterior is highlighted. The diners take their first bites, eyes widening in delight. They are overwhelmed by the combination of crunchiness and juiciness. One man exclaims how delicious it is, while another can't stop eating, praising the sweetness that emerges with each bite. Enthusiastically, they ask for more, their excitement evident as they devour the dish. Joe, Millie, and Marissa celebrate their success with high fives, smiling brightly at each other, proud of their achievement. In the restaurant, the atmosphere is lively as customers enjoy the new dish. Millie feels a deep sense of accomplishment, hoping that the popularity of the orc katsu will help the restaurant gain more customers. She's excited and optimistic about the future. The following week, as morning breaks, Joe greets Millie cheerfully, offering breakfast. Millie responds, but her curiosity peaks when they hear noise coming from outside. Joe decides to investigate, leaving his breakfast as he heads to the entrance. Millie and Marissa follow, wondering about the commotion. As Joe opens the door, a crowd is gathered outside. The bustling noise and excited chatter fill the air. Millie and Marissa peer through the window, and they see people eagerly talking and gesturing. It seems the result of their hard work has begun to pay.
Here I am, know it's been a while. I was in denial about my love. Here I stand, I know I walked away.